Voices blending, melodies ascending, harmony in the air. Our songs are never ending. In the barbershop we create magic. Brad and John show, yeah, it's pure classic. No instruments needed, just our vocal range. Notes flying high, it's our musical exchange. Tracy's station may try, but they can't compete. Our barbershop style, it can't be beat. Oh, the harmony of voices, so sweet. In the barbershop of life, our tunes will repeat. No need for instruments, no need for a band. Just the Brad and John show, the finest in the land.
John, every Friday I can say we make it at least one person happy, don't we? One person is happy because we went back to our Barbershop Quartet intro on Friday mornings.
I would rather call them a barbershop quartet, Brad. I think that was a good Freudian slit there.
I'm sorry. Okay, that's John Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T. And what does John do? He puts together a list every single day. Dozens of things on his list, important things you should know about the state of Missouri. But what we do on Friday morning is we do something special where we bring in the Polka Boys.
Time for the John Combest Top 3.
Not John Combest, but Combest. And John starts it off with this guy who we bring in, especially because of the fact that he knows what's going on. What's your name again, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And what do you do?
Now on with the countdown.
So he counts them down and we start off with?
In third place,
he's big, big, big. And he's red, red, red. And that's how we got to earn the name Big Red. Big Red. Yes, Brad. The 1980s Saturday Night Live commercial parody, Big Red, it wasn't just describing a fictional toy. No, it accurately predicted one of the greatest campaign vehicles of all time. And by all time, I mean in the mid-2020s in the state of Missouri. Congressman Mark Alford created a documentary along with This Week in Missouri Politics and the Missouri Times publisher Scott Vaughn, a town hall documentary, Brad. And stealing the show in that town hall was Mark Alford's literal campaign vehicle, Big Red. You know, it's a Big Red expedition. And Brad, you know that Mark Alford has traveled around his gigantic district, traveling, meeting the people of the 6th congressional district. Oh, wait, did I say 6th? The 4th congressional district. My apologies. Traveling around the state, getting to know people in his first run for Congress, and now in his reelection. So, Brad, this is the first town hall documentary that I ever recall seeing. You know, you've tried to get me to see this documentary about the hot bartender. What's her name from New York? Who's the hot bartender?
AOC.
AOC, yeah. And I haven't watched that documentary. Scott filmed the documentary, so they have a lot of window time. You get to see inside the town halls where Alford is answering questions from people, but more importantly, you get to see a little bit of the interactions that he has with people before and after the town halls, him explaining to Scott why these town halls are important and such.
Did you watch this?
I skimmed around it. Yeah, I didn't. I skipped through the town hall part where people are actually asking him policy questions. Because I'm not gonna sit and watch a town hall. But the parts where he's actually talking to Scott are pretty interesting.
Yeah, but this goes against your guidance.
Which is what?
Well, you say it doesn't matter how many miles he drives. Remember, you made fun of Mark McCluskey because of the fact he'd say, I drove 118,000 miles running for the Senate. And what was you saying? You're saying it was performative? And the performative...
No, that's not what I said. There's a certain term for it, Brad.
What is it?
Efforting.
Okay, so
yeah, so there's one. No, so it doesn't go against that. By the way, McCluskey, we just got a text from him. There's no you and Mark McCloskey. He wanted me to point that out to you. And secondly, yeah, you're right. If Mark Alford's documentary was focused, if the camera was focused on the odometer and showing miles, then I think we would call that an efforting documentary, Brad. But this is really about the man that is the congressman and his interactions with the people of the 4th District.
But isn't that efforting? He's going around talking to these people. Isn't that efforting? I mean, wouldn't it be better just show him in his office with his feet propped up? Hey, man, I'm a congressman. Things are going great.
No, he should send them postcards that they can just throw away. That would be efforting, Brad. That would be saying we're doing things to advance our project, but not really putting any effort in.
So
no, there's no camera on the odometer, Brad.
So is this Scott Fawn? He's produced this, or what? What?
Yeah. And I don't know if Jake Croson was on board at that point. I'm sure Kelton Turner was heavily involved in this project. So yeah, it's a pretty cool documentary. I'd love to see some people get involved in documentaries. You could do some really cool things with video.
Okay, what's the intended audience for this? Is this on like Amazon or Netflix or Prime or something like that?
I think it's only on Daily Motion and MySpace, Brad.
So in other words,
no, I'm joking. Yeah, it's on all of Scott's channels. So I believe it also ran on a syndicated version. I believe ran at least on KMOS, which is I believe based out of Warrensburg. So Scott's show is in every part of the state. So I'm guessing it runs in the normal time slot of a lot of those stations. I'm not certain though. I haven't asked Scott about it.
So is it like a half an hour or an hour, or how long is the doc?
Yeah, I believe it's more than 20 minutes. I want to say it might be a 30-minute show.
See, once again, this is an interesting thing for me because this is the democratization of media. Because if you go back 40, 50 years to do this, it would cost you tons of money for equipment and producers and cameramen and sound men and editors and stuff like that. Now you can do this on your iPhone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Okay, we up for number 2?
We are.
And here we go.
Up a notch to number 2.
Speaking of television stations, Brad, Gray Television, which runs a number of stations around the state, has a piece on a brand new campaign, and I want you to follow us here, Brad. There's been all this debate about initiative petition changes, right? Like you and I have talked about this a lot, right?
Right. Talked about it yesterday because I heard a thing on NPR, one of the NPR stations down south, for some group that's coming up and saying, hey, with this initiative petition thing is just perfect. We don't need any changes. It's the citizens talking.
Yeah. So, Brad, Gray Television runs a piece. There's a brand new group called the Respect Voters Coalition. And in Missouri, there's a gentleman named Ben Singer. So Ben Singer runs a group called Show Me Integrity. And they've been a big proponent of ranked choice voting and changing the voting processes in Missouri. But it looks like for 2026, Ben Singer's main priority is going to be pushing this Respect Voters Coalition. And I'm laughing because you got to kind of follow the train here. The idea is a constitutional amendment that will keep lawmakers from, quote unquote, messing with the initiative petition process.
This is what
in other words, if this group gets enough signatures to get this on the ballot, you could have enshrined in the Missouri Constitution a measure that would keep lawmakers from dickering, so to speak, with, the number of signatures you have to get or the number of congressional districts where you have to get from which you have to gather signatures. So in other words, Brad, kind of to your point yesterday, this Missouri group is saying, and the headline from KFVS, at least in Cape Girardeau, is enough is enough. We've had enough of Missouri lawmakers trying to tinker with the IP system because they don't like what citizens do. So let's keep the system just as it is. It works just fine.
This is what I was talking about. I heard the story on one of the NPR. Matter of fact, I believe that was it SEMO, Southeast Missouri State? I believe they have an NPR station. I think this is the story I heard when I was driving back on Christmas afternoon. This exact thing. I couldn't remember what the name of the group was. That's exactly what I was talking about. They're essentially saying, hands off the IP thing. Let us do what we've always done, and let us get abortion passed, and let us get gambling passed, because hey, that's what the people want. That's what they're saying.
So I wonder if this is happening in every state. So I wonder if there's a national group that's pushing this, and then they sprinkle a little money to every state, and they have, let's say, a version of Ben Singer in every state who just copies the language. I'm not suggesting this is what's happening. But, Brad, if you heard a national piece about this and it's happening in other states, it would suggest that this isn't just some natural Missouri effort. You know what I'm saying?
No,
I wonder if Ben Singer's effort here in Missouri is a little different than that national one.
No, I heard it on the NPR affiliate in Cape Girardeau, and it was a local story. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yes.
When you suggested that you were driving around the South and then you heard the story, I thought that it was a national story.
When I was coming back from my son on Christmas Day, I was driving through Cape Girardeau. It was, coming up 55, and I heard this story on, I think it's KUCR or something like that. It's not KCUR.
KCUR. Yep.
No, KCUR, isn't that the one in Kansas
Oh, you're
City?
right. That's not KCUR.
Yeah,
you got that right.
But it's
I don't know what the Cape Girardeau one was.
I'll look it up.
I forgot what that was.
This is exactly what I was talking about yesterday morning. This is the group. They're essentially trying to get it to the point where they're trying to lock in the current initiative petition action so that everything would be locked in. 50%, there would be X amount of signatures, and they're essentially putting in a initiative petition to guard the initiative petition, if that makes any sense. Isn't that essentially what they're doing?
And it does make sense. So first of all, you were right about that yesterday. I get what you're saying now. And the station is KRCU. I just looked it up.
Right, KRCU. Okay, yeah, it's. I know it was real close to the KCUR in Kansas City. Same letters, just different positions. Yes, so that's the thing. So first off, this is the guy behind ranked choice voting as well, too.
Well, I wouldn't say that he was behind it. I would say he's been one of the advocates. And if I recall correctly, Show Me Integrity, this group, was really pushing for this in the St. Louis City market for a while. I know they did a lot of extensive, quote unquote, focus group work all throughout the region. And I believe Ben Singer was the architect of that. I could be mistaken.
Okay, what I don't get about the ranked choice thing is already it's tough to get people to vote, and it's pretty simple. Candidate A gets more votes than candidate B, candidate A wins. Okay, but this crazy ranked choice thing, there's all sorts. It's like the NCAA bracket. You know what I mean? Okay, we got this guy and he's moving up to here and he's doing this.
A lot of contingencies, yeah.
Right, and it's like, okay, why would you do that? I still don't understand. What's the ultimate purpose for ranked choice voting? Could you give me the advantage for liberals and Democrats is that Republicans and conservatives are winning too many elections in Missouri. So let's change the method by which people vote and hope that by some chance we could have a way to get a Democrat get elected. Well, it would be much easier.
If I was a Republican in Illinois, I would love ranked choice voting because I might have a chance to get some kind of a right winger on a fluke elected to office.
It would be much easier for the Democrats in Missouri.
What's that?
If they put up decent candidates who weren't nutbags, people would vote for them, right? How about that?
Oh, Brad, talk about pie in the sky. You know what else is ridiculous in pie in the sky?
Is that
thinking that we should celebrate historical figures that have been canceled? But I guess that would just have to lead us into story number one.
I was going to say, is that my cue for number one? It must be, because here we go.
The number one.
The Kansas City Star, Brad, I think has finally found the death punch against Josh Hawley. Brad, the Kansas City Star has discovered that one of Josh Hawley's campaign consultants has written a book. His name is H.W. Crocker III. And I think he's an older gentleman, Brad, so I know you're going to be biased toward him. He worked for Governor Pete Wilson in California in the 1990s. He was a speechwriter. Josh Hawley took this guy on as a campaign consultant for this campaign. And maybe he wrote a couple speeches or maybe he just did some messaging. Hawley's campaign won't say. But Brad, the Kansas City Star has discovered that this gentleman, H.W. Crocker III, once wrote a book called Robert E. Lee on Leadership. This man actually wrote a book that suggested that Robert E. Lee was a leader. So I don't know, Brad, in 2024, going into 2025, how your campaign can have somebody as a consultant that has said anything positive about Robert E. Lee and in fact called him a leader. Maybe Josh Hawley didn't know this. Maybe Josh Hawley isn't up on the Civil War. But Brad, you can't have somebody on your campaign that has praised somebody from the 1860s who fought on the wrong side of a war. So Brad, this is a sizzling expose of the fact that this gentleman, and by the way, this gentleman seems to emphasize some things that Josh Hawley emphasizes, that whole Christian nationalism thing. So I think it just underscores the fact, Brad, that Missouri made a horrible mistake by, 20 points or whatever it was. in electing Josh Hawley over Lucas Kuntz. We could have had a guy out there shooting reporters, but instead we chose a guy who paid money to a guy who said positive things about a guy from the 1860s.
You know,
I don't know. I don't know if Josh Hawley is going to be able to recover from this.
This revisionist history thing is so frustrating to me because Robert E. Lee was such an incredible person. You read his bio and it's like, whoa, you know what I mean? It's just one of these people that just did incredible things, but he got on the wrong side of history, and now people go, oh, we should tear down his statues. He's a terrible guy. I don't understand it. You know, I remember I told you the stories 2 weeks ago. I saw this interesting article that talked about how he saved the St. Louis riverfront. Remember I talked about that?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, and I had never heard that. And maybe one of the reasons I hadn't heard it, Brad, is because we can't say the man's name.
Robert E. Lee. Is that what we?
Yeah, we can't. Yeah, we shouldn't be saying his name.
We can't even say his name.
I don't think so. And by the way, I would also point out the other fantastic nugget from the story. And the story was written by a gentleman named Daniel DeRocher, who I've pointed out many times before, is a good, I consider him to be a good reporter. He seems to be a pretty progressive guy, but I think he's a quality reporter. He points out uniquely that Josh Hawley has not answered any questions from the Kansas City Star since his reelection. Isn't that great, Brad? It looks like Josh Hawley's just like, you know what? I don't think we're going to mess with the Star anymore. And the Hawley's office says that he will not comment, quote, now or in the future. Isn't that fantastic?
Well,
we have a politician saying, hey, news outlet X, we're done. We're going to move on. We're not talking to you anymore.
You know, he's done that with Mark Reardon. You know that story?
No, I don't. Oh, didn't Reardon get mad about something?
No, he asked him a question that Hawley didn't like, and so Josh Hawley is never available for Mark Reardon. I don't know if they'll call him anymore.
Do we know that's a real thing, or is Mark Reardon kind of a Brad Hildebrand where he's like, oh, Hawley's mad at me, he's not going to talk to me?
No, he's talked about this on the air before that Hawley will not talk to him anymore. That if they call him on something, he will refuse to go on. He'll go on with Mark Cox with the other people on 97.1, but he won't go on with Mark Reardon. It's like a personal thing. And by the way, I have an interesting thing. Do you know? I'm gonna set the internet abuzz with this morning. Do you know that Josh Hawley has a twin, but they don't claim that they're twins?
Is it Pete Mundo in Kansas City?
Yes, exactly. How did you know I was going with that? They look like...
Because I've written about it, Brad. I've written about it extensively. I'm glad you picked up on this in 2024.
They look like twins. I mean, don't you think they do?
Yeah. That's why I've pointed it out for years. That's a great point, Brad.
Well, John, when you get to be my age, sometimes things, the synapses just don't synapse anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Did you get that Pete Mundo calendar that I sent you? Were you looking at his centerfold pinups? Is that how you know that they look similar?
Oh, I understand that before Pete got into radio, he used to be a firefighter, and that was the deal. They had all the calendars, and one of the firefighters said to him, it was the beefcake calendars, all the firefighters do. Hey, I'm a firefighter. Why do you think women call for their cats up in the tree? They don't care about their damn cat. They just want to have the firefighters go out there and flex their muscles and climb up a tree and get the cats out. That's the whole story, John.
And that's why I don't call 911. I don't want a quote unquote beefcake coming to roadside, Brad, after I call in a 911 call.
By the way, John, we're running. You know what? Here, we'll pick it up in the next one. I will give you my latest 911 update.
You called it again.
Yes, last week.
All right.
Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?